is to mow. We live in a house that has a yard, and he is very capable of mowing that yard, but he thinks he has to mow it on Tuesday. Well, it may rain on Tuesday, and for him to understand that that behavior of putting everything on a schedule in a routine is not always possible causes him to become anxious. And if we can just kind of help them to undo some of their behaviors.
The regiment.
Yeah. That's my greatest problem right now of all the other problems in my home and life, but helping him to understand to just relax. If it's raining on Tuesday, he'll mow the yard on Wednesday.
I was thinking of an oops sign that you had pulling something out and say, today's an oops day, and then it's a whole new routine for that day. You read or whatever he likes to do, but we're not doing our usual stuff because today's an oops day, it rained, or it's a holiday, or whatever caused it to be different. That you show him a sign and say, it's an oops day.
What works for mine, because we're fixing to go on vacation, so he's staying with my parents. And that's a whole different thing. So he keeps texting my mama like, well, what are we going to do? How am I going to get to school? And mama finally just said, okay, remember when we told you during the summer, some days aren't going to be the same? Well, when mom and daddy are gone that weekend, it's just not going to be the same. You're just going to have to go with the flow. We call it the flow days. You just flow with it.
That would be good for an older one to say go with the flow. I know we wish this was a live mission trip, but mission trips always have its challenges. And we used to say, well, you have to be fluid, and you have to go with the flow. Well, we finally decided it went beyond being flexible, that you do have to truly just be fluid because things can completely change. We changed countries at the last minute, which country we were supposed to be in. So, things can change, and if they can learn that it's okay to have a change day. So as he gets older, maybe oops is beyond his, to flow sounds better. This is a go with the flow day.
And ladies, we have to admit we have our behaviors too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
And we have to learn to adapt and so we should think that our special needs people are just like us. And there's not always happiness in my heart on days that I get up on the wrong side of the bed. I have to adjust my behavior to not bite everybody's head off. But sometimes we think that our special people should be different than us.
That goes to expecting more out of them.
Yeah.
I know my daughter has Down syndrome, and the world sees Down syndrome as very happy, outgoing people. And some of them, that is their personality, but it's not every single one of them. And even the ones who do have that outgoing personality still have a very stubborn streak. But she doesn't have an outgoing personality like that. She is friendly and cuts up with only a few people that she knows well. It could be based on the trauma she went through as a young child before I adopted her. It could be that's just her personality, who knows? But you can't always expect a person to act a certain way based on that they have a disability. So that's part of it. Another thing on reinforcers, I like to have a surprise one where you just never know when it's going to happen, but if you're good, you get it. And so we do a treasure chest, and they never know when I'm going to bring out the treasure chest. But if you've been good and you've earned your points, then there's a big treasure that you wasn't expecting. So those are good too. My husband's good about that with milkshakes. She never knows when he's going to decide to get our daughter a milkshake. And I won't hardly do anything like that because of how many calories it has in it. So she definitely loves her daddy for the milkshake.
Or the Cokes.
Or a Coke, yeah.
Yeah, I have a habit of have a Coke in the refrigerator. So if she walks down the hall with me, she gets that Coke. So
again, visual supports can help, and they could be on the front end of first then board doesn't have to be written out. You can tell them, first we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do that. And if you stay consistent with them, they can understand it. But it also, depending on their developmental, might do better with concrete objects. You know, first we're gonna drink our water, maybe it has their medicine in it, and then we get to have our snack or whatever, so that they can actually see the item. Or it could be pictures, or it could be words if they read, or it could be verbal if they understand verbal language. So it's just based on what their need is. It doesn't have to be a picture that you find for every single thing they might ever going to do first and then do next. I've had to draw them at the hospital before, and I'm not an artist, but so she knows what's coming up and what's going to happen, what the expectations are. I'm over there just drawing like crazy. And now the hospital's starting to be better at stuff like that, and they see me drawing and will reach over, oh, we have this, would this help? And somebody has developed those, and they have them in almost every room now. But they don't think of them because so few children need those picture supports. But if you need it, you need it. My daughter actually is supported by sign language. She does hear, but we learned them when she was little. She's not verbal. And so that's quicker to help her understand than anything, because she will give me the blank stare, like I don't know what in the world you're talking about, until I give her, and maybe it's just playing me, but sometimes I think it's just not fitting. The cognitive processing is going so slow, she's not getting what I say till I put that sign with it. And a sign is my hands. I always have them with me, so I'm for that. If I want her to get ready to go and she needs to put on her socks and her shoes, then she sees that and she does it. Where if I could go and find a picture of a pair of socks, or find, you know, so pictures are good, but I'm okay with signs. And they say, well, it shouldn't be homemade signs, but found different languages have different signs, so whatever works. You know, if you work with her enough to communicate to that point to her, then I can teach you her signs. Most of them are based on American Sign Language. Some of them we simplified just because she didn't have the fine motor skills to do all those, and she certainly doesn't spell out words. She tries to do okay, but it doesn't come, it just kind of goes. But I know she's signing okay to do the letters for that she feels good. So signs, gestures.
She's got yes and no down pretty good.
Yes, no, more,
Yeah.
eat, drink, you know. That's her main mode of communication. But I try to pair it with the language. So that's what I call total language, where she could see a picture, she could give me a sign, but then I want that verbal response too, if I can get it. I don't get it every time. But the occasions when I get I love you means a whole lot.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yes.
so it's really important to keep putting the verbal with it, so she knows she's going to get quicker once she gives it verbal. She's going to get by anything she wants if she asks for it verbally. She also has a communication device on her iPad. So she doesn't use it very often, but every now and then she manipulates us, and it will say, let's go get pizza. Well, guess where we're going?
Pizza.
Or Wendy Coke.
Yeah.
That's on there now.
So, you know, manipulation is the game. I mentioned a token system. That's when you delay the reinforcer until they've done it several times. And we had to use this with going to the grocery store for her. I wished I had brought it. The first one that worked for her really good, she loved Shrek, the Shrek movies. She liked all of them. And so we had these little Shreks. I think there was 5 or 6 of them. And you had to, I would put a Shrek on if she was staying right with me in the store, and having nice hands. And then if she got the thing filled up with Shreks, then she could have a Coke at the end. So, you know, of shopping. So she was shopping for something too. As she got older, we started looking in them. They send out shopper papers that tell what's on sale at the grocery store. And I would let her show me a few things in the paper, and we would cut those pictures out. And then she could take them, and I had a little key ring we could tape them to. And she could help look for those things in the store and put them in the buggy. So she was doing her own shopping that way. And so that wasn't token, but that was another way of, but she had to earn those Shreks to get her Coke, which is a token system. And, a lot of people say, well, that's bribing children. Well, you bribe me to go to work every day then, because I go to work 20 days a month for a paycheck at the end, and I think I would still go without it, but I couldn't go 20 days. I'd have to do something else that could make some money to take care of my family. So I love what I do, but I do it for pay as well.
Because you have to have that food.
Yes, we like to eat. We have a bad
Yes.
habit of that. To support our habit of food and going on mission trips, I have to work. So some behaviors are beyond that. They are really, truly challenging. There's a trauma in that child's life, or a mental illness going on, or there's some reason why their behaviors are more severe. And occasionally you will see those are the ones that you're gonna have to work closely with the parent. And there may be a time where you have to say they can't come unless you come with them, or, have some rules. I had the respite program I was telling you about where they would come once a month. We had a little boy who could come every other month, and we would plan for him with 2 people because we never knew when he might do something really, really aggressive. And so we're talking about children who are very aggressive, and those to me are the most challenging. It could be defiant, but most defiant children you can work around if you stick to your guns too and they find out it doesn't work. But aggression, you never know where it's coming from, and when you're actually hurting people, then something has to be put in place. The thing is to stay calm.
Yes.
Because if you got hit or spit, you want to lash back, but that's the wrong approach. You want to stay as calm and as neutral as possible. We've already said, don't take this personal. It's not you that this is about anyway. And you want to reassure them that they're going to be okay, to help calm them down. Because they need a way to calm down, and they need a way to save face. So you've given them opportunities to find a way to tell you what's going on, to calm down. It's not a time to talk to them. They're not listening anyway. They are out of control, and they're not going to listen to you. So don't try to give them a lecture or tell them, if you'd only act better, I'm disappointed in you, or any of that. It's not helping at that time. They've got to calm down first. And so if they're completely out of control, then you have to be truly in control in order to help them. We at school have been trained to use a restraint. At church, we do not use a restraint. If a child is that out of control, we put them in a safest spot as possible, and call for a parent to come. Because we cannot touch them and control them that way physically or restrain them in any way. But their parent can come, and their parent will need some help. And then we can follow their parent lead on what they need us to help with. Then we want to look at what happened here, what triggered it, how could it be better. This is not your normal child. This is not something that you're going to see on an everyday basis. You run a center every day. How many times have you had to deal with that?
About 3 times in the past 8 years, and it's usually been my child.
Yeah, I'd say.
We do have one lady that when she gets past that, being able to control her emotions, we have learned just to leave her alone, let her scream and cry, and she'll eventually calm herself down and be okay.
Yes.
But it's that place where she has lost the ability to control her emotions. It's not aggressive, it's just screaming and crying.
Yes, and if it's not aggression, then there's no need for anyone to physically intervene anyway. The screaming, I've told a little boy who loved to scream, screams are free.
Yeah.
Because I can't stop him from screaming anyway, so they truly are. He could scream all he wants to scream. But when he finds out I'm not going to get upset about screaming, then it didn't take long at all. The screaming,
2 days?
screaming
2 days?
just, And when another child would come in and try to scream, he'd look over at him and say, "Screams are free in here."
Yeah.
You know.
I have found out that a lot of the behaviors, if you just ignore them, they'll go away. I did have a young man that came with a caretaker that would slip into the bathroom and put soap all in his hair. And we just let it happen because the soap's going to burn his eyes and not taste good if it got in his mouth. And caretaker's the one that had to clean him up. But he just wanted to be defined.
Yeah.
And there's that, what happened and what was the consequence? If somebody comes to your rescue and cleans you up, then why wouldn't you do it again? You got all that attention, plus you got to have your way about something. So it's really important to look at, but if they are truly a danger to themselves or others, if they're gonna hurt somebody or hurt you or hurt themselves, you have to protect yourself, you have to protect the other people. My latest training, because we're getting less and less hands-on, is for me to step aside and let them. I can't do that because behind me is a 5-year-old. I teach really small children. So if I'm not the one standing there to stop him from getting to them, and I step aside, then the person who's going to get it is a lot smaller than me. So they hit me. And you think, well, a 5-year-old can't hurt you? Yes, they can.
Yeah, they can.
When they're out of control, they have a lot of energy. We have, there are some extra things that you can do sensory if you see it coming. We have one that we took a big bolster and we would roll it up and down her back to relieve some of that tension in her. I had the same bolster that a boy from some kind of a bad background, I used to just let him beat it and beat it and beat it to get some of that anger and frustration out without having to really hit somebody. And I had them where they like to do chores for you, but they have that side too where it could go could go either way. And I would give them heavy work that I didn't even really need done, like a crate of books, and I take it to Miss So and So, and then she knows that in a little while I might send him, go get me those books, you know, so he had something heavy to carry. But it has been just a change would work without the heavy, but heavy things work too. But I've had them go to the office with a note that just said, I just needed them to come out for a minute. And so they carry a note to the office, she writes on it, okay, and sends it back, you know, and that could work with, you go give the preacher this note, and you know, it could be at church too, where they get to change that environment that's frustrating them for a few minutes. And that could be, if you see that on the front end and somebody can go with them to just get them out and get them in a different situation. Outside, if they're not a runner, just go out and swing for a minute or run for a minute in a safe area or something. There are things that could be done if you could see that coming. And they say there's always an antecedent. Sometimes these children, it's internal, and they're fixing to blow and nobody sees it coming. And that's when just call. Because you have to keep everyone else safe and keep them from hurting themselves at all possible, and call for their parent, somebody with authority to deal with them. Sometimes a man would help, just the presence of a man. So if you have a pastor or someone that you could call in to just start talking to them, that a new person, that might calm them down.
So we had one at school, he would get upset and I would just call my husband and just put him on speaker and he, okay, Pop. Calm right back home.
The greatest challenge for me, and we've only had this one time at Joy Center, is a runner, and he got out the door before we realized it, and he just had a problem with abandonment. His dad would bring him, and he couldn't handle his dad leaving him, and it broke our heart that we had to dismiss him. But it was just too dangerous for him to run out the door, and he was so fast that we couldn't get to him in time before we got to the road.
Yeah, there are, and you have to do a lot of praying about it. There are some cases that you're just not gonna be able to meet that need. And so maybe then a home situation where you come and do something at their home would be a better situation. One of my daughter's behaviors is throwing things. So her art teacher was very upset that she threw the glass jar with the paintbrushes in it. And my solution to the art teacher was, next time have a plastic jar instead of a glass one, just for safety.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want her to throw it, and we can work on how to help her not throw, but just think about, okay, let's remove things that might be a target. If we know we have a thrower, let's remove things that might be a target. And I think it's really funny when we give children balls to play with but don't want them to throw a ball. Balls are for throwing.
Yes.
So if you're going to give them a ball, you kind of expect it's going to get thrown at some point.
Yes.
They might play with it first,
Yeah.
but they're going to throw it. So you've got to be in an area where it's okay to throw a ball if you're going to give them a ball. Just saying. And that reminds me of my yes and no. Don't ask questions that are yes and no unless no is an okay answer.
Yeah.
Because I have people say, you know, do you want to do so-and-so is something that they have to go do. An example was a parent came after their child to take them to the doctor, and she stood there for a few minutes, and then she says, well, I'll have to reschedule his appointment. And I'm like, why? And she says, he said no.
Yeah.
You know, no. I picked him up, put her in, he was little, I picked him up, put him in the car. I don't know how she got him out when she got there. But if you're gonna ask a question and they can say yes or they can say no to, then you have to take their no for an answer. Do you wanna go with me? If it's somewhere they've gotta go, you don't ask that. Because they have to go. You have to say, we're going to the doctor now.
Yeah.
You don't say, do you want to? Well, no, they don't want to. So yes and no questions are tricky. Just kind of watch out for those that you're saying it in a way that they can get what they said. If they have a choice, give them a choice. But do plan for choices. Some things you have to do, but some things could be a choice. Even like schoolwork can come in an order. Do you want to do this worksheet or this worksheet first? You know, it doesn't have to be, wherever you can find a choice to let them choose. Maybe at church where they said it's a choice. Instead of you always picking this is where we're going to sit, maybe they get to pick a seat. And, you know, it has to be a choice you can live with. So that's it about that, is keeping everyone safe, offering choices. That will help on the defiant part. If they can still get to have their way a little, because we haven't mentioned some of it's nothing but a power struggle. That sometimes kids just want the power. And if you could find something they can have the power over, then that helps.
You gotta pick your battles.
Yes,
Pick
yes.
and choose
Yes.
what battle you're gonna pick.
Yeah.
You know, if Nick wants to wear boots with shorts, he can wear boots with shorts. I'm not gonna battle the tennis shoe issue.
So my daughter who wants to wear snow boots in the summer,
Yeah.
I usually try to put them away, which is another thing.
Yeah.
If you don't want a
Yeah.
preferred item that they like
Yeah.
you got a kid that's not going to do anything if he can sit and play with blue Legos, then you don't have the blue Legos out when you want to do other things, because you're not going to get what you want if he can play with blue Legos.
Yeah, Hannah likes to wear a winter coat year-round. Hannah's coat goes away during summertime and reappears when it's cold.
Yeah, so you have to pick your battles, but you also have to design it.
Yeah.
Sabotage the environment
Yes.
for the results that you want to happen. Because their behaviors are developing, they're appropriate for us all to have them, good and bad, and they develop at different levels with different reasons, cognitive reasons, sensory reasons, environmental reasons, medical. If they had a headache, like she was talking about her son, she didn't know he had a headache. And so that was it. And then personalities are different. Our temperaments are just different. We're not all the same.
Yeah.
We're not all the same as parents, adults, children. Some are loud, some are quiet, some are overstimulate easy, some you can barely stimulate. And it's just not a perfect world. We're all made unique, and we all have stages that we go through at different times. I say God gave them the wiggles. So your active kids, find a place for them to wiggle, because God gave them those wiggles to start with, and give them a chance to build on their independence. And remember, it's there. Be positive about the child, even if the behavior is negative. Don't say negative things about the child to them or to anyone else. You know, it's not them, it's the behavior that you don't like, and you need to work on ways to change the behavior. Pray about it a lot. God will give you a lot of insight on how to help a child, because each situation seems a little different, but you being consistent and you being the calm person, then you can start to make a change in how you direct them and how you help them. I don't want to scare you away when it comes to behaviors, because it's not every day. And so many people are afraid to even speak to someone with a disability because they don't know what they'll say or do. You don't know what anybody's going to say or do when you speak to them. So just know that they're like everybody else. I do want to remind you that your negative statements greatly outweigh for any child your positive statements. And it gives them that I'm not worthy syndrome, that they feel that. So you need 10 positive statements to 1 negative. Now, I may have to tell my child that I don't like how slow she's getting ready to go somewhere, but then I need 10 times of telling her, well, she looks really good, she got in the car nice, I like the way she put on her shoes. You know, come up with 10 to outdo where I had to fuss at her to get her going to start with. We do fuss at our kids.
Yeah, we do.
You know, and we fuss at other people's kids sometimes too. But it's just,
like you said, catch them being good.
I think my favorite phrase that my grandmother used to tell me, she goes, I don't like your behavior right now, but I still love you. So whenever she corrected us, it was, I don't like your behavior, but I still love you. And I think that, we don't hear a lot of that anymore.
and fade in those reinforcers. If you constantly there, oh, you're good, give them a reinforcer every time, then they get so prompt dependent on that reinforcer that they won't do anything without it. So it kind of fades away. So internally they can start to feel proud of themselves for what they've done without you reinforcing it all the time. We had one little boy who was real prompt dependent, and then when we wasn't giving him, he would tell himself, good boy, you did a good job. So, yep, he's had a few too many reinforcers.
Gave himself high fives.
And I think that pretty well covered it. I did find the Beatitudes. I want to close with those, and I'm going to ask Wendy to read them because it's a blur.
It's a blur. Blessed are you who take time to listen to difficult speech, for you help us to know that if we're preserved, we can be understood. Blessed are you who walk with us in public places and ignore the stares of strangers, for in your friendship we feel good to be ourselves. Blessed are you who never bid us to hurry up, and more blessed, you who do not snatch our tasks from our hands to do them for us, for often we need time rather than help. Blessed are you who stand beside us as we enter new and untried ventures, for our unsureness will be overweighed by the times when we surprise ourselves and you. Blessed are you who ask for our help and realize our giftedness, for our greatest need is to be needed. Blessed are you who help us with the graciousness of Christ, for often we need the help we cannot ask for. Blessed are you when all things you assure us that what make up individual is not our particular disability or difficulty, but our beautiful God-given personhood which no handicapping condition can confine. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for your understanding and love have opened doors for us to enjoy life. It's full, and you have helped us believe in ourselves as valued and gifted people.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind you, there is an exam you need to take that will be at the end, and then our Zoom calls, we should be coming to our last one now, and then your assignments, your disability assignment or a sermon assignment, you could choose one of those, and then the reading assignments and the making something sensory, and hope you've enjoyed the class, want to hear from you. Look me up on Facebook, I'll be your Facebook friend.
Yes.
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 Bye.
Bye.
Bye.